Welcome in, everybody. There's a lot of stuff going on in the market today, and we're going to break it all down. First of all, the CME gap did close, I tweeted earlier, just under that kind of 68,000 level is where they liquidate the longs, close the gap, and then probably up from there. We have 10 days to go to the halving. Pretty special time. But the markets are also a bit rattled because of massive dumpage. Continued dumpage from Grayscale and a little bit of macro stuff around CPI, but we're not too concerned with that at all at this stage of the game. But let's jump in. This is called the Relentless Bleed, and a shout out to Patty for being in the community as well. Patty Manders, love your videos, love being a Patreon member, and a very happy birthday as well to T&D Tesla, our moderator who's always there. Thank you so much, everybody. Bitcoin Only playlist is here for later. If you're only interested in Bitcoin content, something wrong with my eye, we'll ignore that for now. And we only have 10 days to go. 10 days to go to the halving. What does that mean? Well, we are living through a FUD storm. Every cockroach is coming out of the woodwork saying, huge crash incoming. Zeno, thanks for coming here. Let's look at fundamentals. That's all we do here. We'll look at data. 10 days to go. And we know what happens at the halving. Okay, so if in doubt, zoom out. And did I mention Bitcoin is at prices we have not seen since yesterday, and people are freaking out? I never get it. Like, literally, we're 68.8, and that was the price 24 hours ago. Madness. Anyway, let's jump into this chart because it tells what you all need to know. The halving is coming. 2012, 2016, 2020. Those little orange arrows point to where you are. We are 10 days away from this, and we have this tiny little red dip. Tiny red dip, all triggered by out-of-sequence sales by Grayscale. Okay, we'll show you the wallet numbers. But what is really important to notice, and why this time is so different, okay, shout out to Andrew here. Another 300 million yesterday, probably another 500 million today of outflows. We'll talk more about that wallet move in a minute. More than 4.5 billion has been sold by Barry & Co., DCG, Grayscale, etc. in 30 days. And Bitcoin is 2% off its all-time high when this tweet was made a few hours ago. Just 2% from its all-time high after literally nearly $5 billion in Bitcoin dumpage. Okay. This will be flushed. And when that happens, wow, it's going to be crazy. Now, according to Arkham, big move, another 4,141 Bitcoin is going to move to Coinbase Prime deposit. That always rattles the market because that means it's there to sell. Let's look at these wallet movements as well. So expect more bleed today. But you know what? Fidelity and BlackRock had a weak day yesterday, and it's normally followed up by a strong day. But you can see here all the different wallet movements from Grayscale, Bitcoin Trust out to Coinbase Prime to be sold or transferred elsewhere. And we know this thing is scarce. But let's talk about some of the more positive news. First of all, Bitcoin open interest hits a new all-time high despite the bleed. Bitcoin open interest hits a new all-time high of $18.2 billion. You basically, the way to construe that is everybody is very interested in Bitcoin, and this is how they're getting exposure. Maybe not through spot, but definitely through open interest. Also, let's put the drawdowns in perspective. Like literally, Bitcoin's down 3% today, but the drawdowns have been far shallower than in the past, despite, again, nearly $5 billion in dumpage from Grayscale in just 30 days. The market's more than absorbing it. Okay. Now, this chart here is from the team at Glassnode, and we've been looking at these drawdowns. And again, despite all the stuff that's happening, the market is experiencing multiple, approximately 10%, sometimes 17% drawdowns, 16.8%, etc. But nothing like the 30%, the 40%, the 38.2%, the 50% we saw in previous cycles. So things are a little bit different this time as well. Now, there is also another cool chart here from Glassnode. Shout out to Sanjay as well for sharing. Profit-taking intensity is far lower considering where we are in the cycle compared to previous cycles, which means, yes, there is selling. And the selling from Grayscale is skewing some of the on-chain data. All right, it's taking old wallets, making them look like people are selling before the halving, but that's just the speculators getting out of Grayscale. We've covered that many times. But this is a positive sign too. And we have a new MicroStrategy as well. The next MicroStrategy, this Japanese public company, is buying Bitcoin. It's a company called MetaPlanet. They are purchasing about 6.5 million in Bitcoin for its corporate treasury, mimicking MicroStrategy's Bitcoin accumulation strategy. This is great to hear. It's also interesting to hear that it's coming from Japan. And the reason that matters is because I've been hinting all year that there are at least 2 Japanese pension funds that are sniffing around Bitcoin. They have a hole. They need to plug that hole. They have an aging population. They have negative birth rates. All perfect storm of hell for pension funds. And they're looking at Bitcoin. And for this firm to do that as well, MetaPlanet, who, in full disclosure, I never heard of until today, it's a big step. And more will follow. It's just a matter of time. Now, shout out to Jurian Trimmer from Fidelity. He put together this beautiful periodic table of investment returns going all the way back to 1984. And if you take a very close look, you'll see an interesting pattern emerge. And it's a bit of an eye chart, and I apologize for that. But if you go back to 2011, 2012, 2013, the top performing asset on planet Earth was Bitcoin. Of course, 2015, bear market, miss. Then 2016, 2017, 2018, Bitcoin wins again. No, I got that wrong. Hang on. It missed in 2014. 2015, 2016, 2017 was on. 2018 missed. 2019, 2020, 2021, Bitcoin best performing asset. And of course, 2022, it missed. And then 2023 and 2024, Bitcoin is yet again the best performing asset. So for your friends that aren't believers, share with them this chart. And you can see 11 of the past 14 years, Bitcoin has been the top performing asset on planet Earth. QED, as they say. And we also know, ignore the noise. There's a lot of noise out there. A lot of people, one thing you learn, people talk their book. If they're short Bitcoin, they'll try to talk it down. Or if they're short the market, they'll try to talk that down as well. But this is from Aurelian Ohayon. All you need to know, and I added, I hope you don't mind, a little green arrow from here. We are going to go up for the next at least 18 months, maybe more, maybe the next 8 years. We're not sure. Thank you, Dr. Sauce, for coming as well. The good news is, ignore the noise. We're going up. Ignore the undulations. Again, the prices are back at levels not seen since Sunday or Saturday. Sunday. It's crazy. I already forgot it's Tuesday. Octa's coming later, by the way, in a few hours too. Now, a little bit of government speak too. McHenry says the U.S. needs to lead in Bitcoin. He is a congressman, and he says the U.S. needs to be a leader in Bitcoin, which is a positive thing. And then there must be some conference going on right now. And then Cynthia Lummis came out and said as well, okay, U.S. officials, high-ranking government officials feel threatened by Bitcoin because they cannot control it. This is not what government's like. But fortunately, at least there's 2 semi-intelligent individuals, because Bitcoin cannot be controlled. So when you try to fight it, you actually just make it stronger. That's just the nature of the world. And it's not just the Japanese seeking alpha, but Germany as well. The Deutsche Bank survey via Reuters shows a big change in how people view Bitcoin, as only 1% believe it's a fad. It was 20% a year ago. All right. So the Germans, 99% of them now believe in it in one way or another. Let's look at some quick charts. Bitcoin black hole time. We are on day 60 of these ETFs, and you can see that dark orange down there is nasty. And a dark red, the first dark red we have had since the 20th of March, about 30 days ago. That is a negative of $223 million, called it $250 million, all because 303 million flowed out of Grayscale, and we can expect more of that today. But again, despite this, Bitcoin's holding up strong. And again, it was at 65K early last week. You see the prices across the top. In fact, 2nd of April, it was at 65K. This takes the pinpoint of the actual price, so you can see that as well. And that is not bad. Now, the macro update, you can see here the green line is Grayscale. It is down. But what has also happened, which is kind of unusual, is Fidelity and BlackRock didn't buy much at all. BITB did, but it wasn't enough to compensate that massive dumpage from Grayscale. And money flow is negative, down below the line. Ignore the title. That's the big blue bar there showing you the total money flow. Nasty. And that red cumulative is also down, which we don't like. But if you look at the number of days of down, again, it's always around 16% of days. So it's just the nature of this volatile asset that is Bitcoin. And the total money flow is still going up after that negative. And we now have 24.4 billion into the 9 new ETFs, which is substantial. Remember, this is the crazy piece here. We are getting very close to the level at where the amount of Bitcoin in BlackRock will exceed that of Grayscale. And that's going to happen probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks, I would say. And then we know it's only a matter of time before this bleed from Grayscale slows down. And we also know all the big money. By the way, GBTC has lost 300,742 Bitcoin in 60 days. That's massive, massive amount of Bitcoin. Anyway, let's look at the dumpage. Unfortunately, we got back below that pink line. We were above it. We thought last week maybe the bleed had slowed, but now, bang, back again. And it could be bad again today, tonight. I will report on this as well. So you'll see my reports on Patreon later today, as soon as I get the data. So, final thing. Coincidentally, Friday, 3,006 Bitcoin were taken from the system. Today, 3,125 were added back thanks to Grayscale. Remember, it's like give and take, in and out. The net of the last 2 trading days was 0. And that's all you need to know. Let's look at a couple of charts because, again, people are completely freaking out right now. And I always get confused as to why. But first of all, this is a chart from Santiment. It's kind of interesting. It's a dip by Santiment. And Bitcoin, yes, an hour ago is dipped below 69K, and it's still below 69K, but super close to it. But there was an initial panic from traders, and then they said, well, we were here on Saturday or Sunday, so no big deal. And now, the thing from this data from Santiment, there's much more optimism. And the term dip buy the dip, etc., is much more pronounced than ever before. Okay, so this panic is short term. We have 10 days to go to the halving, and people are now looking at this as an opportunity. I also did notice today that Mr. 100 has not bought since the 4th of April. That's 5 days. They normally come in now and buy the dip, so I expect Mr. 100 to be back in as well. And part of this dip is not just the CME gap, but also, if you look at this chart here, leverage longs are heavy at that green line. So they had to wick to 69K below it just to smash those longs and grab their Bitcoin and pump up the bags. Remember, the amount of consumption by the ETFs is far beyond my wildest dreams. For me to consider like BlackRock after 60 days nearly having as much Bitcoin as Grayscale, that started the 60 days ago with 621,000 Bitcoin, is unheard of. Now, let's see if this works. You know, the floor is right below 69K. Right now, as I'm looking, it's about 68.5. We're about 68.6. We could dip a little bit further. The dump from Grayscale could be nasty, but we'll see. We'll see where this goes. Either way, zoom out, you'll see where we are. There's a great meme of a cat looking at a chart that just goes up like this, and then there's a tiny dip down. Now, also for perspective, over the last 6 months, Bitcoin has gone up 175%. Hard to believe. And that little line, sometimes it reaches the bottom of this trend line. This is the optimized trend. But right now it's just at the top. So theoretically, it could go down to that bottom line because it has hit that twice so far, this crazy bull run. Will it hit it again? I don't think so. That would take us back down to about 62,000. I don't see that happening with 10 days to go to the halving. Remember, there's nothing scarcer than this asset. So thank you so much for coming. I'll see you all later. Thank you to the mods in the chat. Happy birthday again, T&D Tesla. Hit the like on the way out, and I'll see you all in a few hours, okay? Thank you. Bye-bye.